Welcome back. Sam Roberts Show. Katie Nolan is here. Casuals is available now. The twice-a-week phenomenon from Katie Nolan, available Tuesdays and Thursdays through SiriusXM podcast, which is also funny because I saw you had to put the video out, which I think is SiriusXM's problem, that you had to be like, hey, it's SiriusXM podcast.
It's
you don't
not
have to
on
have.
XM. Yeah. It's confusing because I want to say it's with SiriusXM. I want to give the company love, but then people are like, "Oh, I don't have that," and I'm like, "Well, you don't have to.
Right.
It's a podcast.
It's just a podcast.
You know, I'm changing the game.
You
one
are.
podcast at a time. Yeah.
You are.
This is the one. This podcast is the one.
Right.
It's different than all the others. The world needed it.
I hope that that's Sirius's game plan, that they're like, what we're going to do is we're going to put out the podcast for free, but trick people into thinking that they have to subscribe.
I think I've had at least one person say they got a Sirius subscription for the podcast. And I'm like, I forwarded the message to Sirius and they said, I'm bringing in money.
Yeah.
So you can't get rid of me.
That's right. Yeah. And they won't even hear me.
Yeah. Direct subs, you guys, and they can't find me, so put me on.
Well, we were just talking right before you came in, right? Mm-hmm. About this. Did you see the fight that Patrick Mahomes Sr. and John Rocker got into?
In New Orleans.
In New Orleans.
Yes.
It was staged, as it turns out.
Yeah.
Because I guess Pat Mahomes' dad is on probation and had to tell his probation officer that he wasn't part of a street fight. And this is like, I guess Barstool was prepping for their next Rough and Rowdy or whatever.
As soon as I heard, I think like somebody in one of the first comments when I was looking at it, because, you know, when you have a show, you got to look for the news and pull it together. Yeah. And so I was going to talk about this, and then I saw in the comments somebody was like, oh, they're getting ready for Rough and Rowdy. And I said, okay.
I should have read the
I've
comments.
been around wrestling enough to know.
Yeah.
Like, this is a work. They're clearly trying to get you to be excited about a fight.
And I guess I'll still watch it.
Yeah, you know.
But it's also like, it is funny that they picked a guy who's on probation. So it's like you can't get into real fights.
You can't stage it. Like, he has to admit that he didn't do that, or else he has to go to jail, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's an interesting strategy, but it worked, I guess.
Do you think Patrick Mahomes deserves way more credit for not only being, like, great, but also, because, like, it's so much pressure.
Yeah.
To be a elite level quarterback of a Super Bowl winning and going to, not winning this year team, but like the idea that when he gets off the field, this is his family, like that's his dad, Jackson Mahomes is his brother, like everything's a disaster for him off the field.
It does seem like, you know, sometimes when you have like, Patrick's kind of quiet for a quarterback, and I feel like it's because it's like the less he says, the better. Yeah. Because it feels like when you're surrounded by that many people that look, and we don't know them, maybe they're really nice people. Maybe Jackson Mahomes is fun to be around.
Seems
but
like
from online,
he
like
knows
from
all the dances.
Right. I mean, actually, it's like really just one.
Right.
The crazy thing about Jackson Mahomes is he knows like one song and he does one dance on every sideline. They just seem, their personas seem like a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
So I like to picture Patrick like going home. He doesn't do this, but like going home, smoking a cigarette and being like, oh my God, this again.
Yeah.
Like you come off the field, it's already like a battlefield, and you come into another battlefield of drama.
Yeah, there's a real chance that the stress of a professional NFL football game is his escape.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Like he's dreading the off season.
It's like,
because
please send pressure. I've got enough at home. Hit me.
Whatever you can do so that I'm not thinking about my family.
Yeah, it's possible. Or maybe he's just as annoying as they are and we just don't know.
Right.
Maybe he sucks too. I don't know. These are all possible theories.
I'd love to find out that he sucks for a specific reason.
Yes.
Because I don't know what it would be.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not football, I'll tell you that.
No.
He's good at that.
He's good at football.
Yeah.
He's good at football.
Yeah.
But
this,
not good at having a family that is not
tough to be around.
Yeah. And really, really annoying. Although, like I said, I'll watch this fight.
Yeah.
And I do kind of enjoy, and maybe it's like that 90s nostalgia thing. I enjoy John Rocker making a comeback.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're here for this.
Yeah. I was saying
Okay.
because there's like so many problematic people now that are making money being problematic.
Right. So it's like you might as well bring back the old ones.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Like John Rocker didn't get to, make an economy out of his being an asshole. So like now the fact that can happen, He's one of the OG.
Does that say
assholes.
MAGA business?
MAGA business.
Meaning what?
Well, he's all about the MAGA
If you want to email me about making America great again, here's my Gmail.
Yeah, he's got a good Gmail address.
Which is John
Rocker Braves. 1990s. I appreciate that.
And what was better in the 1990s than the Braves?
Yeah,
they
nothing.
Were great.
Not much. And we were all watching it on TBS.
That's right. That's right. America's Superstation.
That's right.
Yeah, I do love that. If it ain't MAGA business,
don't email me.
No, ain't for me.
Don't email me about anybody, any rights. I just want to talk MAGA business.
Yeah.
Executive orders only.
I mean, you know this better than anybody. Talking about sports is usually fun because you can talk about it without having a population of people being like, what do you hate the country? What do you hate? Like, it doesn't get so serious, except inevitably, like everything else now, politics starts to worm its way into it, and you can end up stepping on one of those landmines without even realizing, I had no idea the context of this.
Yeah. It's funny, a couple years ago, the narrative was keep politics out of sports because of the kneeling during the anthem, which, was an interesting thing for me that people were taking someone having a complaint against the country they live in, an American speaking out against America when people were paying attention to them. And that was politics. But now at NASCAR, Daytona 500 this weekend, Trump flew he didn't fly it himself, but Air Force One flew over Daytona.
Right.
And then he drove the pace car. They prayed for him before the race, and you're like, what happened to keep politics out of sport? This is literally the president.
Right. No, we meant the ones we don't like.
Yeah, that guy was a football player on a football field making his own personal political statement.
Yeah.
But I thought we were keeping politics out of sports.
Right.
So,
right.
Whatever. It is what it is. I'm at the point now, I'm numb. I'm just okay, fine.
Same.
Okay, fine.
Right.
You guys want to yell? Yell. I'm going to talk about the stuff that is interesting to me and what matters to me, and you guys can yell. He's followed by Shane Gillis, John Rocker.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
I didn't expect that.
Yes, he is followed by Shane Gillis.
And Ann Coulter, everyone's favorite.
Ann Coulter.
Interesting list.
Yeah, the guy who killed Bin Laden.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Which is sick.
Yes.
And Shane.
And Shane, of course. Of course.
I mean, I get that. I get why Shane would follow John Rocker.
You wonder if it's old, if it's from, pure Shane, old pre-fame Shane just followed John Rocker.
Right.
Or if, he's there for the MAGA business. You don't know.
Well, he just joined in October, so.
Oh, wait, John Rocker did? Oh, my God. It's a new account.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then never mind. This is a recent follow.
Right, so Shane at peak Shane Gillis fame.
It followed John Rocker. It's kind of crazy if you think about it.
Well, it could be one of those things because Shane's journey to superstardom was getting canceled first, and now he's invincible.
Yeah,
that he's
but he was one of the first people that didn't lean into it. That's what I respect about Shane. He didn't go I'm the canceled comedian. I'm a canceled tour. He was just yeah, okay, you didn't like that. I get it. My bad.
Right.
And then just stayed fun, worked on his jokes and was funny. That's I think the path that should be more popular.
Yeah, they fired me. That's fine.
Right.
I've been working on this show.
Yes.
If you like it, you should watch it.
Yes.
And everybody was like, we love this.
Yes.
We love this.
It was great. And he's funny.
Yeah. Are you also up on kind of all the comedy goings on since you have, comedy in your house? Oh, you got Soder,
So I've always been a comedy fan.
Yeah.
But now I get the gossip.
The real gossip.
Now I get the drama.
Yeah.
Now I get an unintended consequent of marrying into comedy.
Yeah.
Because I knew on its face, I'm you marry the funniest guy alive, you get to laugh the rest of your life. That's the goal. But I didn't realize the unintended benefit was that I get to hear all the gossip.
And it's better than any joke.
Yes, comics are so
special.
gossipy about it.
Worst.
There's so much drama between them. It's crazy, but I love it.
Yeah.
I'm eating good in the drama department.
Yeah. What did he say?
But see, now then I have to be careful when I'm talking to other people where I'm is this public knowledge or is this Dan talking about somebody and I'm not supposed to say?
Did I hear that on a YouTube video or a dinner?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Or you meet a comic now and it's no. I know all about you.
I know. I also get to watch Dan interact with comics where I'm I know what you said about that person 2 days ago.
That's great.
And he hates it. He's man, now I got somebody checking me on I said I didn't like them and I'm giving them I like them energy.
You phony.
Yeah, exactly.
You
but
Hollywood phony.
At least I keep it till we get home and then I go, so I thought you hated him. I thought you guys weren't friends. You seem pretty friendly.
Yeah, but then you're in
cool
television and media, so I'm sure he catches you doing that all the time.
Yes, I just haven't been working, so he hasn't been able to. It's been a strategy. I took a couple years off so that Dan couldn't call me a phony in front of all the people I have to smile to.
What did you do when you took a couple years off?
Nothing.
Because you were like everywhere for a minute.
I know. It was too much for me. It was a lot. I started on YouTube. I started doing like comedy stuff when I was out of college and didn't have a job, and that turned into working at Fox Sports in 2013, and then the show I was on got canceled, but I got my own show. It all happened really fast.
Right.
And it was really fun, and I liked making what I was making, and then I went to ESPN, and that was a little bit of like the brakes were kind of hit for me because it's just such a big machine, and it's been around for so long, and they're really, really good at what they do, but they're not necessarily, I didn't find them to be ready to like able to pivot to like make something a little different. And what I wanted to do, which is kind of what I'm doing now, is like make sports programming for people who like will watch sports and are interested in sports and will go to like a baseball game in the summer, but aren't like checking to see the trade transactions in the morning and aren't like breaking down the defense. They just kind of want to like BS about sports.
Right.
And so we kind of tried to do that at ESPN, and it didn't really work. And then the pandemic hit, which was like slamming the brakes for everybody. Dan didn't go on the road, and I was working from home. And then ESPN made an offer that I didn't like, so I was like, no thanks, thinking I would just go do something else. And then if I'm honest, a lot of sports media now is gambling. Right. A lot of the money and a lot of the content, anybody making new stuff is a gambling company. And I'm not like better than anybody. I'm not opposed to gambling as a concept. But I do think like some of sports should be a little separate. I think there should be like a space for people that like, let's say you loved sports and were addicted to gambling and you want to go back to just loving sports. There's like really nowhere to go.
That's interesting.
Everything's brought to you by DraftKings and FanDuel.
Right.
So it's like, I kind of wanted a little podcast that, or if you're like a kid, like I don't think kids understand that gambling and sports can be separate. It feels like we're selling it to them like, if you like sports, you love to gamble.
Right.
Instead of being like, you can just like the sports of it. And so, when I left ESPN and I was like, had offers from, money that I didn't necessarily want, I just kind of took some time off and like got into liking sports again as a fan.
Right.
Instead of having to like know everything so that people wouldn't constantly say like, you're a woman and clearly you don't know because you got something wrong. So I felt like I was doing homework instead of like loving sports the way that I always loved sports because I'm from Boston. So I just sort of, it's such a luxury. I just kind of took some time off and just sat, watched sports, played video games, read a couple books, not as many as I should have.
Literally two.
Yeah. Like two or three. And just tried to figure out like what I wanted to do. And then came up with this idea for this podcast, pitched it to Sirius, and they were like, we love that, and here we are.
Was that tough at first when you're like, oh, because like you said, it was moving fast for a while, and you were like everywhere for a second.
Yeah.
And then for you to go, I'm not going to do anything right now.
Yeah.
Like, because you feel like when you're on that sort of, when the wheel's spinning, you're like, I got to keep the wheel spinning. I got to do this. I got to take advantage of that opportunity and that opportunity. And if I don't keep doing it, they'll all forget about me.
Yeah. It was hard. It was scary. But I also think it was necessary for me because I think if I had stayed on that wheel, that I would have lost myself. Like I would have, you get kind of like unmoored. Like I felt like I was like floating out in an ocean and I didn't know where I was. Like I think like it felt to me like it's now or never. Like taking the time now, the world stopped. And so it gave me like an opportunity to slow down and reassess. And I think like if I hadn't have done that, then I would be less in touch with like me and who I am than I am now. And I think wouldn't have like Dan and I got very lucky. A big thing in my life that I've always wanted is to be in love, and I found like the love of my life, and we got to spend time like an eternal sleepover for like a couple months.
Yeah.
And then I got to like travel with him on his big shows, like when he did Red Rocks, like I got to go with him. He's from Denver.
So
and so like having that free time was like very, very valuable. We got a dog. I got to hang out with my dog. I've never had a dog before. I've always wanted a dog.
You know what you got to do? You got to be a human being.
I got to live a little.
And there's so many people who like work in this bigger picture thing that they're not human.
I know. But it's like, because you can't be.
You can't be.
It's tough to be.
Yes.
Because to be a human, the way the internet is now, everybody's just yelling at you all the time. So if you're like connected and you're yourself and you put yourself out there, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's easier to be detached, to be like a personality or like something that people can project themselves onto, but you're not actually a person. But I don't know. It just felt important to me to be a real lady.
Right.
An actual lady.
So then
who lives in the world.
You get to become a lady.
Yeah. Kind of. I mean, like in the vaguest sense of the word. I still don't really know how to do my hair or my makeup, but I'm trying.
But then you also, I think, get the opportunity to figure out what you actually want to do. Because at some point, not doing stuff feels less scary, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think that, like, especially now the way society is, a lot of people's lives are consumed by work because they have to be.
Yep.
And I hate that for people that are working like 3 jobs just to get by. And I also hate it for people that are just have the money and the means, but they think for some reason they have to keep going and working all the time. I saw it as like a luxury that I had made enough money and done well enough for myself that for a few years I could just go away and just live wake up and go, what's today about? And a lot of days the answer was nothing. But it was just a nice, it was a luxury that I'm glad I took advantage of. And then eventually I had to be like, hey, Dan, you got to force me out of bed. You got to get me back in shape. You got to be like, let's go. We're going to work.
Right.
And so, we're in that now. This is like, I think we're a month into the podcast. So I'm like knocking the dust off. I'm up. It's what time? I'm awake right now. This is crazy for me.
10
so it's
o'clock in the morning.
Insane. I mean, usually I would get up by like 10:30 usually. Okay. But yeah, I'm getting back into it. It's work, but it's fun. And I think as this podcast is like finding itself and figuring itself out, I think it's going to like become like a really cool thing. A really cool thing I'm happy with.
Do you feel like you're finding your footing? Because even here, we lost Norton. He's alive, but he doesn't do the show anymore.
Thank God that he's alive.
In January, and it's like, for at least a month, at least that first month, it was like sitting here, I was trying to figure out what this show even feels like.
And have you got it?
It feels more like a show now. Like I know what the feeling is now, and where it feels like it's moving.
Yeah.
Now, as opposed to figuring out what it is.
Yeah, good.
And I think that doing it 4 days a week helps, but you doing a podcast twice a week as opposed to once a week, I think is a huge step in the direction of going like, okay, things are starting to feel normal.
Yeah. It's exactly it. I knew that like if we did a once a week podcast and that was my coming back, I wouldn't be able to structure my week around it. I would get lost in like the time, and it would just be like, oh, the show's here, and I wouldn't. So the 2 times a week was like by design. And I also really wanted to make it in person. Like I really wanted guests, and I wanted it to be in person as much as possible. We've had a couple Zoom guests because another thing the pandemic changed, it just made Zoom so easy for everybody,
right,
which made it easier to book bigger guests that normally wouldn't be in town. But I really love, all of my favorite stuff is when like 2 people are in the same room and like bouncing off each other. It makes a world of difference. So like that's the goal ideally.
Especially because somehow 4 years removed from everybody getting Zoom, there are still professionals that are like, no, the laptop microphone is fine. I don't need to get a microphone. Like, what are you doing?
Especially when you're doing like an appearance on something. And you're like, that's your setup? You don't have headphones in?
The whole thing. Like, we see that's your house. There's your bedroom. Like, you're using the webcam on the computer. That's what we're doing?
Wild.
Okay, cool.
On an old computer.
Yeah.
At least get a new computer.
It's not a new computer.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But some of these cameras, these ones, the serious ones that they gave me, 2 HD. Get away from my face.
Right.
Way too HD.
Too much.
Give me a blur or something.
Right.
Like,
get that Diane Sawyer Vaseline lens.
I'm doing my own makeup. We don't have hair and makeup anymore. So what if you just gave me like a nice, soft little something, as I reach 40. Maybe we could soften a little bit.
I'm reaching the stage in life
an
where
HD
softening
camera in my face. I'm like, it's too close.
Right.
Back it up.
Right. No, you're right. This is something people deal with.
It's too much.
Right. And you have to learn the hard way now. Was that part of it? Like when you go from like, okay, you've been doing television for multiple different networks to now it's like a podcast, regardless of how high profile the podcast is, it's a different thing. There's no hair and makeup. There's no this. There's no that. Do you go like, oh.
Part of it I love.
Right.
Part of it is like People are leaving me alone.
You get to be hands-on.
Nobody's breathing down my neck. There's no, person to answer to. There's no managing up, which is my least favorite part about working in any company. And I found out about it the hard way. Is that your job is to make sure the executives are happy. And you're like, but they're rich and they've got assistants. I do not have an assistant.
Right.
I'm just me.
They should be doing great.
Yeah, they should be happy about me. I'm putting myself out there. I'm getting screamed at.
Right.
They're not doing. Nobody even knows who they are unless they sexually harass a bunch of us, which they did. But it's like, but the good thing, the bad things about being hands-on is yes, I can't explain this. I don't know how to explain it to a man,
right.
but to a woman, when you get your makeup done by a professional and you see what you could look like at your absolute best, and you see that every day, and then that goes away, and you've got to try to do it, and you're like, well, these are all the same tools, but it's not looking as good as it did when the lady who knew how to do it did it.
She's a professional.
It's very frustrating because you're like, I know that hot girl's in there, but I can't find her.
Yeah, and all the commenters are going, what happened?
They're like, oh, you look so good with no makeup. And I'm like, bitch, I spent an hour on this. An hour. This is not no makeup. This is makeup done by somebody who does not know how to do makeup.
Yeah, listen, I can't fully relate, but I will tell you, I mean, working at WWE, the way they've made that shine disappear off my head.
It's something.
And then I show up elsewhere, and
and they
it's
go,
just
you got
like,
a shiny head. I didn't know your head was so shiny.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Yeah, right. Not as much, but you get it. You can relate.
Yeah. Also, launching the podcast right at the end of the NFL season, tough.
Okay, so here's what happened.
Right.
Inside baseball here. We had finally agreed to all of the things you got to do. You know, the contract stage is a lot longer than you want it to be.
Oh, I know.
I'm sure you know.
We're still in it.
And so we had by the time we got it to where we were ready to start working on the podcast, it was I want to say August or September. And so it was we were either going to catch the beginning of the football season with no prep and just kind of get going, or it was we could use these months, and then you run into the holidays where it's November, December, and they don't want to launch anything in November, December. And so it was kind of they were we can either do it right now and go with these people you've never met, who most of my producers are remote, or we can spend these months, which feel like way too many months, developing it and then hit the ground running when around the Super Bowl to kind of catch those casual fans who watch the Super Bowl and kind of keep them engaged in sports. And so we opted for the second one. And then, of course, as it goes, we didn't do as much. We just practiced. I got to know the people that I'm going to work with. It was just basic here's where the bathrooms are at Sirius. Here's how your pass works. Yeah. We found the studio at Bryant Park that's Sirius was I didn't even know you guys had that building over there. And so we did all that stuff. And then, we just launched with the Super Bowl because it's that is the big, although this year, what a lame, all around lame terrible. Super Bowl. I don't know if you guys enjoyed it, but it just, the game, the commercials, all of it was just
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Pretty forgettable.
I think the commercials are a thing of the past. People haven't come to terms with the fact.
Yeah, it's probably over.
It's over.
Yeah,
it's over.
They were so good.
They were
incredible. So fun.
Are you kidding me? My dad worked in advertising at the height of Super Bowl
commercials. Oh my God,
commercials.
amazing.
He'd sit home. They were so exciting that he would bring a VHS tape home from work.
That's fun.
On the Friday
really
before
fun.
the Super Bowl, going, you guys want to see something?
That's sick.
You guys want to see some Pepsi commercials?
That's very cool.
They were fantastic. This little kid sucking himself in a Pepsi bottle. It was incredible. It was incredible. But yeah, now those days
now
are
it's nothing.
Those days are over. It's Kanye selling swastika T-shirts on the Super Bowl. What are we doing? What are we doing?
That set me back. That's another thing that I think the pandemic did. It made me really sensitive. That knocked me on off my feet for a couple days. That Kanye thing.
Right.
I was upset.
Yeah.
That upset. I was we live in a place that happens.
You should have heard us in here. We were all laughing about how stupid all those tweets were, and then we saw the website. We were like, he's really doing that?
A Super Bowl commercial. Scan my QR code, and all it is a swastika. It's just we're sliding backwards in a way that's upsetting.
Yeah.
But you got to just ignore it,
That's it.
That's what sports are for. Yeah. It's
horrible.
It's interesting. I feel I'm at the age now. I'm starting to feel bad for refs.
Really?
Because it's just so much pressure, and then the constant conversation about your job being replaced by a computer. It's just you have to go out there and be a sponge for everyone's anger.
Yeah.
Everyone's anger is directed towards you. You can't, you're using your eyes and you can try your best to get it right, but sometimes you blink at an inopportune time, God forbid. And then they have a camera that will prove you wrong in front of everybody while also saying that you could be replaced in 2 years by AI. Like in baseball, they're really talking about like robot umps are coming. They're going to get rid of the umps.
They got the strike box.
I know.
I could do it. I could do it from home. Be like, I saw it. It was out of the box.
That's why I hate the strike box, because I'm like, I know it's not right. And it's making me less smart of a baseball watcher, because I used to know where the strike zone was, like intrinsically, because I could see where it was on his body. Now with the box, even if you try to ignore it, it's there. And you're like, well, that was outside the zone.